Good evening, everybody. We will be starting shortly. We're just waiting for a few more participants to join.
ಇವೆಲ್ಲರೂ ಸತ್ಯ ಶಿವನ ಒಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ನೋಡಿದ್ದೀಯ. ನೀನು ಇವರಿಬ್ಬರನ್ನು ಒಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ನೋಡಿದೀಯ ಅಲ್ಲ? ಆದ್ರೆ ನಾನು ನೋಡಿಲ್ವೇ?
Okay, everyone, I think we can start. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's session on leading HEOR teams from project oversight to people development. We are thrilled to have you join us as we explore how leadership in health economics and outcomes research goes far beyond managing timelines and deliverables. It's also about cultivating high performance teams and fostering professional growth. Today's session is hosted by Curio Training Research Institute, an initiative of CliMed Research Solutions India in collaboration with Dual Sphere Consulting, Singapore. My name is Fatima Juhaina, and I'm absolutely thrilled and honored to be your host for this intellectually enriching evening. Health economics and outcomes research, or HEOR, plays a vital role in informing healthcare decisions from shaping policy to guiding market access strategies. But effective HUR leadership is about more than delivering projects on time. It requires balancing operational excellence with growth and development of the people behind the work. This session, leading HUR teams from project oversight to people development, will explore how leaders can manage complex projects while fostering a motivated, high performing team culture that drives long term success. HUR is the science that combines real world data, economics, and clinical outcomes to answer one big question: how can we deliver healthcare that is also sustainable and affordable? We are thrilled to have an incredible lineup of speakers today, leading experts and pioneers who will guide us through working in HUR teams in an industrial setting. So, are you all ready? I would like to introduce all the speakers today for today's event. First, we have Dr. Richa Goyal, CEO and co-founder of Dual Sphere Consulting and former HEOR and market access leader across top-tier health companies. Dr. Richa Goyal is a seasoned life science professional with over 18 years of industry experience within the life science domain. Richa possesses extensive expertise in strategic planning, go-to-market strategies, market access strategies, pricing, launch optimization, and late-phase studies. Her areas of specialization include health economics and outcome research, real world evidence, patient preference studies, patient reported outcomes, health system research, database analysis, patient support programs, and providing recommendations for open label extension studies and post market research. Dr. Richa has received the HBA Then and Now Award under the HBA Ambassador Program and was recognized with Asia's Women Leader Award. As a thought leader, Dr. Richa has contributed to numerous national and international conferences and has been invited as a guest speaker on various prestigious platforms. She brings extensive experience in cross-cultural collaboration, working effectively with diverse teams and stakeholders across the healthcare industry. We are also proud to welcome our next speaker, Dr. Mahendra Rai, Vice President and Regional Head of HEOR, Real World Evidence and Medical Affairs at Evarsana, Vice President, HEOR, RWE and Medical Affairs, APAC and Middle East. He has over 18 years of experience, and his core responsibility is to provide actionable insights to healthcare clients based on real world data in the process of facilitating informed decision making at both strategic and tactical levels. He has over 18 years of experience in pricing and market access, outcome research, health economics, real world insights, and observational research spanning across the health spectrum, covering pharmaceuticals, medical devices, diagnostics, and OTC categories. Dr. Mahendra has been a part of various HTA engagement programs and has successfully managed over 50 plus HTA submissions globally, including the US, EU, APAC, and Middle East markets. He has been instrumental in generating local evidence in APAC and ME markets, including the KSA, and is an expert on TLR, SLR methodologies and pharmacoepidemiological modeling. He has extensive experience in cardiology, including ATTR-CM from an evidence generation and economic evaluations perspective. Dr. Mahendra's academic training includes an M.Pharma in hospital pharmacy and PhD in clinical research. Dr. Mahendra is currently the president of ICPOR India, Mumbai, ex-chair for the RWA Council of Indian Society for Clinical Research. He is also an adjunct faculty at Manipal Academy of Higher Education, India for Health Economics Postgraduate Program. Welcome, sir. And last but not the least, we also have Dr. Rajpal Singh. He is an accomplished healthcare research specialist with over 14 years' experience in health economics and outcome research and real world evidence. He holds a master's degree in pharmacy, pharmacology, and a doctorate in management studies, combining scientific expertise with strategic insight, a rare blend that strengthens his work in evidence based healthcare decision making. Over his career, Dr. Rajpal Singh has developed deep expertise in systematic and targeted literature review, data landscape studies, and advanced meta analysis techniques, including network meta analysis. His ability to develop end to end systematic literature review enables him to generate high quality evidence that supports healthcare policy, market access, and clinical decision making. He is also a published author in multiple international peer reviewed journals, contributing valuable insights that continue to shape methodologies in HEOR and RWE. His commitment to advancing healthcare research and evidence based practices makes him an inspiring leader in the field. Please join me in warmly welcoming all of the speakers today for today's webinar, and I'm sure we will be learning important lessons as they share their expertise with us today. It's now my pleasure to hand over the virtual stage to Dr. Richa ma'am. The stage is all yours.
Thank you, Fatima. Thanks for the warm introduction for all of us. Hi, everyone. We welcome you all on Sunday afternoon, evening. Thanks, guys, for taking out time. Let me just quickly share my screen. Please let me know if you're able to see the presentation, if anyone can confirm.
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Okay, great. Thanks. So, hi, everyone. I would like to start with the note. There's a book by Marshall Goldsmith, which is called What Got You Here Won't Get You There, which means whichever job we are in, irrespective of HEOR or any other domain, we have to consistently sharpen our skills. We have to unlearn, learn, relearn a lot of skills to take us ahead in our professional journey. It's a journey. It's not a single time point kind of a thing, your career. It's a kind of a journey which we all live. Through these webinars, a series of these webinars, what we try to bring in kind of an amalgamation of skills and competencies. Skills are more or less the technical skills that we have the knowledge maybe in our educational background or during the course of our job. Competency is something which is more about observational, behavioral, what we learn or imbibe from others. There are certain do's and don'ts or certain thin lines we might be confused whether to cross it or not. Through our webinar today, it is kind of an effort from all of us to take you through those. And with that, We'll be covering these contents today. And with this, I would like to invite our first speaker, Dr. Mahendra Rai, to take on the virtual stage, please. Mahendra, all yours.
Sure. Thanks, Richa. And hi, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you're based. So I'm based out of Singapore. For me, it's 7 in the evening. And I believe it's 4:30, slightly past 4:30 for everybody based in India. So as Richa has already set the context, the background for today's session. So we are going to talk a lot about how to manage HEOR projects in a more efficient way. So I think you all are part of the sessions wherein you are learning about HEOR. But the step beyond that is once you know how to do these kind of projects, you also need to understand how to do these projects efficiently. What are the best practices? And then also learn as leaders what you need to do, how to build teams, how to build leadership qualities within yourself, and also develop the future leaders. So all that is what we are going to cover as part of today's session. I'll be with you guys for a shorter time, then I have to take a break in between, then I'll join in the end as well to answer any questions that you may have. So I'll be covering the first two topics, which will be about the strategic vision and role of HEOR in the organization. And then we'll talk about the project oversight and portfolio management, which is something which everybody needs to understand why we are doing it and how we can do it in a more efficient way. So I think with that, we can move to the next slide. So let's talk about strategic vision and role of HEOR in the organization. So, if I have to consider a pharmaceutical company, there are different departments within that company, and we need to understand where HEOR fits in. What is the overall strategic contribution that the HEOR brings to a product's life cycle? And when we say product's life cycle, we are talking about all the stages that a product would go through. So right from the discovery and early development, what would HEOR do if the product is in early stages of development? So basically informing the target product profile, which is called TPP, and the value proposition that a product which is to be developed would have. So you develop this TPP and value proposition for a future product, because at the early development stage, you don't have much of clinical trial data. You don't know how the product is going to do in terms of safety, efficacy. So it's basically developing that TPP, the target product profile, how the product would look like. And it is based on a lot of forecasts, based on a lot of assumptions. And this value proposition that you create for the product is going to change with the time, with the new inputs coming in. So that is what HEOR does at a very early stage. Now moving to the clinical development phase, wherein you have phase 1 to phase 3, where a lot of HEOR evidence, the real world evidence, can be used to optimize your clinical trial design, and also the endpoints for the right value demonstration when it comes to doing the HTAs. So at this stage, the input from HEOR would be to help optimize the clinical trial protocol, understand what should be the right trial design, what should be the right endpoints, and how these endpoints would help in the value demonstration that the product will have at a later stage. So that's basically this role HEOR would play in the clinical development. Then you have regulatory and HTA submission. So again, your HEOR evidence will support pricing, reimbursement, market access. So all that is the support that you'll get from HEOR during the regulatory and the HTA submission. And then you have launch commercialization. So the product is launched in the market, and then you want to commercialize it. So HEOR evidence helps the market access and uptake of the drug. So the drug is reimbursed by the different payers across the globe, and helps you get the revenue share. So that's where HEOR helps in the launch and commercialization. And then lastly is the post-launch stage, or the life cycle management, wherein the product is already in the market, it's mature 3 years, 4 years, 5 years down the line. So HEOR would again sustain access, help in sustaining that access. It will help in demonstrating the ongoing value. It will help inform future indications. So one good example that I can share is of Keytruda from MSD. And Keytruda, when launched, was launched for a couple of indications, and then indications have been getting added, getting reimbursed for different indications. Today, I think it is indicated for 18 different kind of cancers. And that's why Keytruda is such a strong brand and such a strong brand value. So what has happened over the period of time is that MSD has come up with new indications for Keytruda, and they have gone and got reimbursement for those indications. So that is basically sustaining access, demonstrating ongoing value, and also informing any future indications. So that's the first bullet that I've covered about the defining HEOR's strategic contribution across the product life cycle. Now talking about positioning HEOR within cross-functional teams. So, within a pharmaceutical organization, there would be different teams, and this would include your medical team, this will have your market access team, and this will also have your commercial team. So the HEOR function has to align very closely or collaborate very closely with these functions. So for example, medical affairs. So HEOR teams can collaborate with the medical affairs teams to develop integrated evidence generation plans, support on the scientific communication, inform the medical strategy, including the burden of illness, treatment pattern data. So that's how the HEOR teams can collaborate with medical affairs. Moving to market access teams. So again, the HEOR teams, they lead the development of economic models. They provide the evidence for pricing, reimbursement that the access teams would need, and even for any kind of formulary decisions. Then also supporting on the peer engagement side, develop the value proposition that the access teams would need for talking to the stakeholders. So that's the collaboration with the access team. And then we have the commercial brand teams. So again, the HEOR teams, they can translate the clinical and the economic evidence into value messages. So brand teams, they want very specific, short, crisp messages that they can tell to their end customers, which can be doctors, which can be patients. So these messages have to be very simple. We cannot talk about the economic language or the economic data to a stakeholder, probably who's a HCP or even a patient. So these messages have to be very tailor-made, and that's what HEOR teams can help do. Also support in the positioning when it comes to competitive landscapes for any products, enable outcomes-based contracting, innovative access models. So that's where HEOR teams, they work very closely with the commercial or the brand teams. Moving on to the next pointer, which is aligning HEOR deliverables with business and access priorities. So again, it's pretty important to understand what are the priorities a business would have or access from access perspective. So if I have to talk about the business priorities, any business team will look at expanding the market. So if I have a certain revenue, I would want to expand that revenue. I want to go into newer markets. So market expansion is one big business priority. Then you have competitive differentiation. So you want to see how your product can be differentiated with other options that are available in the market. So again, HEOR teams can help bring that competitive differentiation. Revenue growth, as a result of market expansion, you'll always have revenue growth. And then life cycle management, which is important for the drugs. So Keytruda example for that matter. So coming up with new indications, working towards access of these new indication for that product and getting that continued reimbursement. So that's how the life cycle of the product is managed, and there is a longer revenue return which is coming from the product. Then you have access priorities, which will include timely reimbursement. So you cannot wait for years for a product to get reimbursed into the country's healthcare system. So I think it's very important, the timing of reimbursement. So the moment product is launched, you start working on the reimbursement as well. Apply for the reimbursement, try to push for reimbursement, get the timely reimbursement, favorable pricing. So again, reimbursement at any price is not a win-win situation. So you have to get reimbursement at a favorable pricing, which justifies the product's clinical benefit and aligns with the overall dynamics of the product, and where the product is cost effective, value for money. Also in terms of formulary inclusions, so sometimes these decisions may be taken at a central level, but then you'll also have to work with local formularies and get the product included in that. And then out-based contracting. So that is a concept which is more mature in some of the other APAC markets. In India, there is something which is happening on that side, but yeah. So that's where HEOR teams can again work from a business as well as the access perspective and try to align with the end goals. And then lastly, translating scientific outputs into stakeholder relevant insights. So again, there are different stakeholders that you'll come across as a HEOR person. So internal and external. So if I have to talk about the external ones, which are pretty important. So you have payers, you have providers, and you have patients. So these are your three external stakeholders. So payers, basically the governments or even the insurance on the private side. So what their interests are, they primarily want to look at the cost effectiveness, budget impact, real world outcomes for any new product. And the way they want to look at it is probably in terms of economic models, how the outcome is. So you have to develop the economic models for them. Then you have value dossiers, executive summaries. So those are some of the formats that payers would look at. Now going to providers, which is basically your hospitals, big hospital chains. So they also want to look at clinical effectiveness, patient outcomes, and also the ease of use for any new product. And the preferred format would again include infographics, clinical pathways, case studies. Then you have patients as your third set of stakeholders, and they would want to look at the quality of life, treatment burden, whether they have access to the product. And again, their preferred format would be plain language summaries, videos, patient stories. So they may not able to understand if you give them economic models or even a value dossier. So patient would need everything in a very plain language kind of a summary. So those are the external stakeholders for any HUR person. And then coming to the internal team, so we spoke about the medical access commercial team. So basically strategic alignment with them, differentiation, market potential. So those would be the key interests that these teams would have. And the format that they would want the data to be in would be the dashboards, slide decks, strategic briefs. So that is how the HEOR team basically translates the scientific outputs into stakeholder relevant insights. So for every stakeholder, we need to understand what their key interests are and what should be the preferred format of presenting the data to each of these stakeholders. So I think we can move to the next slide. So we spoke about the product life cycle. Sorry, next slide. So we spoke about the product life cycle, and I spoke about the early development, then clinical development, then we spoke about the HTA and the regulatory and the HTA phase, and then lastly we had the launch and the post-launch. So that is what is depicted here. You can see there are different time points that we have: R&D strategy, clinical development plan, protocol design, regulatory planning. So these are all part of the developmental phase, even clinical trials. So the first 5 bullets that you see are part of the developmental phase, and you have various activities that can be performed. So right from doing literature reviews, during the early phases, you do the pair disease primer, you have the fact book. Fact book is basically a HEOR document which with market access elements and also a starting point for several market access service deliverables. Then you do HTA deep dive, early and full core value prospects. There are value strategy playbook, access mechanism framework. So those are some of the key activities. And then you also do literature search and evidence reviews for regulatory submission, economic models, access strategies, disease management solutions, RW insights. So that's the list of activities that you do at a stage when the product is in the developmental phase. Now, once you move to the launch phase, which includes your pre-launch readiness, launch, and then market access, and even the branding and marketing strategies. So that is all that we do pre-launch and near at launch and near post-launch. So those are some of the activities that are done. And this would also start now initiating the real world studies for the product. You do NMAs pre-launch as well as post-launch as well, start the comparison with other products that are in the market. A lot of data management activities also initiated at this stage, even pre-launch. And then we move to in-market where the product has already spent some time in the market. And now you want to look at the sales force optimization, post-marketing studies, growth expansion, life cycle management. So that's where you start looking at newer indications where the product can be used. You start gathering data for that. You also look at literature reviews to collect the updated evidence. So whatever was there at the launch stage, beyond that, once the product is in market, what additional data can be generated from the real world evidence. So all that is what we do. So as you can see on this slide, the overall life cycle management aligns to these HEOR offerings, so HEOR, RW, in market access service offerings that we have, and different activities that are marked in different color schemes. As you see, we have put it as market access, HEOR, and RWE. So different color coding that has been done. So that's how a product's life cycle is managed between these 3 functions. We can move to the next slide. And then coming back from the previous slide, so here is where we have kind of put all the activities that HEOR person probably would be exposed to when they are doing these projects, and within different buckets that you see. So value and evidence, market access, medical affairs, and statistics, which is essentially your biostatistics that we kind of use. So as part of value and evidence, you have real world and the HEOR deliverables that we kind of work on. So basically real world data generation, either from retrospective or prospective studies, even database based studies. And then you have the core HEOR functions, which include your activities, which include your targeted literature reviews, indirect treatment comparisons, which is meta-analysis. You have network meta-analysis, economic modeling, and then EMR data analysis again from RWE perspective. And then access is more about doing the HTA submissions, reimbursement, planning the dossier submission, payer landscape, patient access programs, pricing strategy and positioning. As part of medical affairs, you look at the medical strategy, medical education and training, looking at doing the awareness around the disease, doing Delphi consensus, wherein people come together, the key opinion leaders, they come together and they kind of have a consensus on the right treatment pathways, what should be the right treatment paradigm, and then customer engagement and digital strategy. So a lot of digital is currently used in terms of the medical affairs strategy. And then lastly, we have the statistics where we talk about the descriptive statistics, exploratory data analysis, predictive data analysis, survival analysis, disposition analysis, and multivariate analysis. So depending on the kind of analysis required, one of these statistical principles can be used, and these can be kind of utilized for delivering the or analyzing the end outcomes. Lastly, workshops and training. So I think it's a continued learning process. You need to have continuous learning. There are new things which are coming up. You need to keep on learning on the newer techniques that have been coming. For example, now there's a lot of uses of AI within some of these things that you see. So you need to continuously learn and upskill yourself. So that's all part of the overall continuing HEOR journey. Next slide. So now we'll talk more about the project oversight and the portfolio management. And this is very important from a project leadership perspective. So anybody who's managing a project, who's the project manager, project owner, what they should do and how they should do is what I'm going to talk about from my experience. So moving on to the next slide. So project oversight and portfolio management. So I think we'll talk in detail about the four aspects that you see here: scoping, prioritization, allocating resources across multiple HEOR projects. So as a project leader or even as a team leader, you may be managing multiple projects, and that's where you have to understand how you want to scope and prioritize these projects, how you want to allocate resources across these projects, because resources are always limited and demands are always high. So basis that you need to understand how it has to be done. So we'll talk about that. Then you have managing timelines, budget, and cross-functional dependencies. So this is at a project level. So if you are doing even a single project, and as a project manager, you need to see how you can manage your timelines. You have to deliver the project in the assigned budgets. What are the cross-functional dependencies that you may have to come across? So all that as a project manager, you have to manage. Then vendor and partner management. So if you're sitting in a pharma and if you're working on HEOR projects, you need to understand how to identify the right vendors who have the right skill set to partner on any of these projects, so that you ensure the right quality and consistency that is required when delivering a HEOR project. And lastly, risk identification and mitigation in HEOR execution. So it's very important that you proactively envisage what kind of risks are there and which are kind of possible in this project that you are going to do, and what should be the mitigation strategy. So if you build that even at the start of the project, then probably you are in a very good place, and the project may run very smoothly and efficiently. So probably moving on to the next slide, where now I'll be taking each of these one by one in detail. So starting with scoping, prioritizing, and allocating resources across multiple HEOR projects. So let's talk about scoping HEOR projects effectively. So we have to define the objective and strategic purpose of each HEOR project. For example, this could be from a regulatory support perspective, payer value communication, evidence gap closure, etc. So those would be some of the things that you need to kind of look at, and basis this, you prioritize which of the projects. So these can be different projects, and basis that you have to prioritize which one is top priority, where I have to put my resources, how many resources. So that will start from this prioritization. Then you have to clarify the deliverables, key stakeholders, timelines, and expected impact. And then you need to conduct early stakeholder alignment across cross-functional teams, medical access, commercial. And then some of the tools that are available for this would be your HEOR brief templates, your logic models, project scoping frameworks. So you have to start scoping with the HEOR projects effectively, and then you can then move to the next step, which is looking at the prioritizing framework to for project selection. So you'll have to use the evidence value versus the effort matrix to rank projects. So what is the kind of end evidence value that each of these projects would develop, kind of result in? And then what is the effort that is required? So basis that you create this value versus effort matrix to rank the projects. Then you align on the project priorities, which with life cycle stage, which is early development versus launch versus post launch. You also look at the external dependencies. So for example, HTA deadlines, data availability, publication timelines. So talking from HTA deadline example, so most of the HTAs, they have defined timelines. So for example, in Singapore, we have HTA body called ACE, and they come up with their timelines. So for example, they will say that your initial assessment or the initial HTA submission should be done by say 15th of April in the year, and then your final submission has to be done by 4th of September or 4th of October. So then you have to align your timelines as per these timelines, and you know that by this date you have to complete everything and you have to submit. So that's where we also have these external dependencies, and we align our timelines to that. Then you also have to apply your RACI and risk assessment project selection phasing. So RACI is basically a matrix wherein you look within the team. So RACI is R is who is responsible, A is who is accountable, C is who should be consulted, and I is who should be informed. So there will be 4 different roles as per the RACI matrix, and that is how you kind of divide the responsibilities within the team, and everybody is basically has a ownership for the project to a certain extent. And then in terms of approach, so you have Moscow method, agile prioritization scorecard linked to strategic objectives. So Moscow is basically method where you identify and you see which of the activities are must have, which should be done, which could be done, and which won't be done. So you kind of prioritize your things from a project perspective in these 4 matrices, and then you kind of prioritize and continue basis that. The next one is managing trade-offs and reprioritization. So basically, again, here we have to establish the regular review cadence. So you have to kind of have internal discussions or external discussions on a monthly or a quarterly basis to look at the project status. You have to communicate openly about delays, deprioritizations, or shifts in the strategy. So communication is the key. So if there is anything which is off the track, it's always good to communicate about that so that you get right inputs and a course correction can be done. Then foster a culture of agile responsiveness, not overcommitment. So agility is good, but you should never overcommit. So if you know that it takes 3 months to do a certain activity, I think you should be open about that. You should not say that we can do it within 2 months time frame, and because that will lead to a lot of confusion, bad quality. So I think that culture of agile responsiveness should be there. We should never overcommit, and we should always look at what is the right effort that goes into doing any activity, and we should stick to that. If we are able to do it earlier and with a better quality, I think that is good. Always try to build in efficiencies, but never overcommit on anything. Resource allocation across the portfolio. So match internal team capacity, skill set plus bandwidth to project complexity. Balance scientific expertise. Determine when to outsource versus insource. So again, looking at what is your internal capacity, what kind of capability you have in-house. Basis that you can decide on whether you have to do the work in-house or you have to outsource. Build in flex capacity for unplanned requests or shifting priorities. So always have that flex capacity, always have those additional resources, because sometimes HEOR business is like that. So there are peaks and troughs. So whenever there is a lot of peak or a lot of inflow of work, so flex capacity can be used to kind of accommodate to those demands. And then tools, you have resource forecasting dashboards, portfolio workload mapping, time tracking systems to inform future planning. So these are some of the tools which help project managers to kind of assess what kind of workload can be there and how the resourcing can be planned in a much efficient way. Moving on to the next slide. Then moving on to managing timelines, budget, and cross-functional dependencies. And this can again be done at a particular project level. So for any project that a project manager is running, you need to develop the realistic project timeline with key milestones and review points. So, and the project manager has to drive this. The project manager is responsible for kind of devising the overall project timeline, account for dependencies, waiting on clinical data, regulatory input, vendor turnaround. So all that has to be kind of accounted for when you're developing the project timelines. built-in buffers for QA, stakeholder review, and formatting, publication processes, use Gantt chart for agile boards to visualize and track progress. So some of the tips would be like to hold weekly or bi-weekly status check-ins, because you want to see whether this is kind of aligned to whatever timeline that you have developed. Flag bottlenecks early and reassign as needed. Document assumptions, example, you have data delivery dates that affect schedules. So that's on the timeline management, and it's a very important aspect. The moment you start a project, this realistic project timeline has to be in place, and you have to build in these checks that we spoke about. And second is the budget management. So again, you have to develop a bottom budget. So every project has to be delivered in a cost which is reasonable and which is profitable for the company, because we all kind of tend to work for companies for profit. So that is the end goal that we all kind of are working towards. So we have to look at a bottom up kind of a budgeting, and what kind of resource needs are there, what kind of outsourcing plans would be there. So you have to track actual versus the forecast regularly, and also adjust for any overrun. So sometimes you would have forecasted for 100 hours kind of an effort, but then it goes beyond that. So there will be unplanned revisions or data access fees that may come up, which was not originally accounted for. You have to also evaluate the cost benefit of internal versus the external execution. So in a pharma, typically this exercise is done. So you want to understand what would be the cost of delivering a particular HEOR project if it is done completely internally, or if we have to outsource it to a partner. So that kind of evaluation needs to be done. Also maintain visibility over both core budgets and pass-through vendor budgets. So always have a strict kind of an overview of that. In terms of some of the tools, so again, budget templates or project types can be in place. So this could be modeling, SLR, RWE, studies-based templates that can be customized, and you can always kind of have a track of what are the costs or even the overruns. Then you have cost dashboards for ongoing tracking, and then quarterly budget review checkpoints that can be put in place. So that's how you keep a track of the budget management of the project that you are running as a project manager. Then moving on to managing cross-functional dependencies. So again, there would be a lot of interdependencies that you'll come across. So for example, as a HEOR person, you will need some input from the clinical team, from regulatory, access strategy. Just a minute, somebody's. Yeah, so we were at managing cross-functional dependencies. So we spoke about the identifying key interdependencies, which is a different teams. So clinical, input, regulatory, access. So you'll have to work very closely with these teams, and a lot of data would come from them. So there is a dependency. So we need to always account for that. Then create stakeholder maps and assign ownership for each deliverable input. Ensure clear communication protocols. So who needs to review, who will approve, and then timing for that as well. So you'll have to always account for what would go. So sometimes some of the things need to be reviewed by the medical team. So you need to account for their time. You need to account for how and when you'll be able to send the deliverables to them, and would they be available. So all that has to be there. And then also facilitate cross-functional kickoffs and wrap-ups to align expectations. So always a good idea when you are working on such projects where you know that multiple teams would be involved. So this should be part of the kickoff. There should be a kind of a overall summary of the project that should be given to each of these stakeholders, so they have a better understanding of what their roles and responsibilities would be and how they would be contributing to these projects. So the key partners, as we spoke about, may include your medical affairs team. So mostly from a evidence strategy and KOL alignment. You may have market access teams where the payer engagement strategy and value messaging would come from. Regulatory affairs to ensure consistency with the regulatory documents. Then clinical teams for the source data, endpoints, and protocol inputs. So in terms of some of the best practices for integration, so you can always use a project management tool. So for example, Smartsheet, MS Project, Asana, Monday. So these are some of the examples. And then also maintain a living rate log. So rate is basically risk, assumptions, issues, dependencies. So that kind of a log you can manage, and you'll know what are the risks, and then some of the assumptions that you may have taken, some of the issues that are popping up, or even the dependencies. So that will help you to keep the project on track, even if any of these things prop up. And then ultimately, what should be the mitigation for that, and how to bring back the project on track, even if it is kind of getting a bit delayed. And then hold regular cross-functional governance reviews, monthly or by milestones. So the projects can be broken down into several milestones. And then at each milestone, you can have a review meeting, internal or external, and then try to see if the outputs that are there are aligned and everybody is aligned to that. Moving on to the next slide. So then vendor and partner management, ensuring quality and consistency in HEOR projects. So you'll see that in HEOR, vendors and external partners often play a very critical role in delivering the high impact outputs, right from systematic reviews to economic models, real world data analytics. So managing these relationships well is not just about timelines, it's about trust, quality, and scientific rigor. So there are several steps that you see on this slide. It's a very text-heavy slide. So selecting the right partner. So it's all about looking at what kind of deliverable you are working on. So whether it is a SLR, whether it's a meta-analysis, or you want to also do something on the economic side. And basis that, you have to evaluate who would be the right partner for you, and also looking at what kind of market potential they have, what kind of market reputation basically they have. So about that particular project design, so are they the right partners for that? So you have to evaluate, you have to look at their track record, understand their capabilities, and then basis that you can always uh, collaborate with them. Then also onboarding and the alignment. So have a structured kickoff meeting. So once you have kind of shortlisted that this is the right partner for delivering the project, so you have to have a structured meeting. You do a kickoff meeting, you align on the scope, deliverables, and timelines, provide the background around the material, disease area, previous work that has been done, any kind of internal style guidelines. So some of the companies, they prefer to work on their templates, their way of working. They want the partner also to work in the similar fashion. So I think all that has to be aligned in this kickoff meeting. You have to set the expectations for the version control, documentation standard, communication cadence. So all that has to be again aligned in this onboarding meeting, and then clarify the roles. You have the escalation metrics for any kind of issues that crop up, and what should be the resolution metrics. So all that has to be done in this step 2, which is onboarding and the alignment. Then you move on to ensuring the scientific and the technical quality. So again, there has to be a quality review checklist. Some companies, they have a separate quality assurance team which kind of looks into it. But at a project level also, you can always develop that quality review checklist or the metrics. You set up the interim reviews to kind of avoid any late stage surprises. Assign internal reviewers for methodological accuracy, consistency, and internal narratives, and always adhere to the SOPs. So most of these activities as part of the HEOR RWE would have their SOPs, style guides, regulatory submission standards. So adhere to that, and adherence to that would ensure that you're not kind of deviating much. There may be deviations still, but then you are at least aligned to the overall methodology, and the expected outcomes would be aligned. So one tip for this is use templated deliverable formats and annotated examples to guide consistency. So most of the companies, they would have their templates, and always a good idea to use the templates, because you know what is required in each of the sections. You'll have section headers, and then subheadings are also there. So it's easy to kind of fit the data into the respective headers, which would be the right kind of point for that. Then moving on to the next one, which is managing timelines, budgets, and deliverables. So again, when you're working with external vendors, you have to track deliverables through a shared project management tool. So it can be Smartsheet, Basecamp, or even OneDrive we use sometimes. You have to maintain a deliverable calendar with key milestones, and this has to be managed from the both sides, so from the vendor side as well as the company side. Monitor the budget adherence and flag potential scope creep early. So if you feel that certain activities are taking much more time than what was planned in the initial project timelines, then you know that this project is going to overrun, and then there may be issues from a cost perspective as well. So that has to be aligned early. Monitor the budget adherence. That's where you have to look at the overall project timelines, and if it is in line with the agreed budgets, use change order protocols for additional work or timeline shifts. So sometimes it may happen that there is a change in the protocol and you may have to do some additional work. So for that, then you'll have to do the change order and also realign with the timelines that would be required for delivering with this change. And then lastly, fostering long-term partnerships. So it's very important when you work with an external vendor, that trust has to be there. And that trust is a kind of function of the quality that the vendor will deliver. So it's a mutual kind of an understanding, the way of working. So you have to provide the constructive feedback whenever there's a project which is done. And you have to tell what you liked, what you didn't like, because then the partner would also try to understand what can be done in a better way. And they will work on that. Recognize the high performing partners with the repeat engagement. So always, I mean, if you do a good job on one of the projects, probably the company would want to work more and more with you. And that's kind of a recognition of your good work. Create a system for continuous performance monitoring. So metrics like timelines, scientific quality, responsiveness. So it's always a good way of understanding how the feedback is, and it can be a two-way feedback. So try to understand from the client. So if you are the vendor, you try to understand from the client on different metrics in terms of timeline, quality, and responsiveness, how they rate you. So that helps you to even understand that probably you are good in one of the metrics, but then falling on the other. So then you need to improvise on that particular metric. And then optional is to host annual or quarterly HEOR partner roundtable. So some of the pharma companies, they do that. They invite all the partners and then they kind of have these discussions face to face, and they provide that kind of a feedback in these roundtables and best practices that they want to share. So that is something which helps them foster this kind of long-term partnerships. Moving on to the next slide. And then lastly, in terms of risk identification and mitigation in HEOR execution. So HEOR projects are complex. They can be cross-functional, data dependent, and which kind of makes them prone to risk. And effective leaders proactively identify, assess, and mitigate risks to ensure timelines, data integrity, and stakeholder trust to remain intact. So some of the common risk areas that you'll identify in HEOR projects. So data risk. So this could be delayed access to real world data or clinical trial output, data quality issues, regulatory limitations on data use. For example, you have GDPR guidelines, you have HIPAA guidelines. So depending on the countries, there can be local guidelines. So those would probably limit your access to data, and that will lead to delays in your project execution. Then you have execution risk. So sometimes timeline slippage due to dependencies or resource constraints. You have vendor underperformance or scope creep, rework due to misalignment and stakeholders. So all those are some of the common things that we have seen during our journey, during the projects that we have delivered. And these are things which are common. These are not like happening once in a while. These continue to happen across projects. So we have to always kind of look at from a project perspective, whether any of these execution risk is possible. Then in terms of methodological risk, so we have choice of inappropriate modeling techniques. So we choose the wrong modeling technique, incorrect assumption or lack of transparency, use of outdated or non-generalizable inputs. So those are some of the methodological risks that are possible during HEOR projects. And then strategic risks. So misalignment between the HEOR outputs and payer regulatory needs. So we're not understanding what the payer wants. They may be looking for probably the affordability of the product, and you go with the value proposition where you talk about value for money. So that probably is not the right output from a payer or regulatory need. Shifting organizational priorities mid-project. So this is something which happens a lot in pharma. There may be a certain priority basis that the entire plan is made, and then during course of that journey, the priorities change. And then that is a risk for the ongoing project. HTA rejections due to inadequate evidence or unsupported claims. So sometimes the entire HTA dossier is developed, but then we miss on certain important aspects that the HTA body may be looking at. So that's again a strategic risk that is there with these kind of HEOR projects. Next slide. So we know that these are the different kind of risks. Now, what and how, how we can identify these risks, and then what should be the mitigation strategy. So we talk about that on this slide. So basically, we should always do a project risk workshop or SWOT assessment, use a RAID. So RAID is again risk assumption, issues, dependencies, log, and you can identify, interview cross-functional partners to uncover blind spots. So talk to people in different teams. So people in medical, people in clinical teams, people in access, and then you can understand what may be the risks that may be there with this kind of a project, and monitor the early warning signals, delayed inputs, unclear ownership, slow reviews. So all those are like your early signal, warning signals. Then you have the risk monitoring and the communication. So include risk reviews in regular project government meetings, assign risk owners and document mitigation plans, maintain visibility of the critical risks through project dashboards, and then escalate unresolved or high probability risk early. So, I mean, timing is the key. So if you are aware of some risk, don't sit on the risk. You have to kind of escalate it and try to see what should be the right mitigation strategy for that. Talking of the mitigation strategies, so some of the strategies that are that we kind of look at. So data risk, so secure data access early, validation, validate the data fitness for use. So I mean, data risk is pretty common, and whenever we start a project where the data is involved, we need to quickly list down what are the different data sources. Is it accessible? If it is accessible, how it is accessible? So all that has to be mapped, and the idea is to secure data early as soon as possible, and then also check whether it is the feasibility for it, or validate whether it is fit for use. Timeline risk, so build in the time buffers, establish milestone-based monitoring. So always when you build your timelines, ensure that you have kept some buffer, because there are some unwanted things that happen during the course of the project. So it has to be, there has to be some shock absorbers, and that is how you have to build your time buffers. Then for the methodological risk, you have to involve the senior reviewers early, validate assumptions with cross-functional teams. So methodological risk are where you probably are doing or using or utilizing the wrong methodology. So always go to the senior people in the team and let them review what you're trying to do, understand if it is the right methodology. Also, you can go to the other teams, cross-functional teams, and try to validate your methodology. Vendor risk, so set quality KPIs for them, key performance indicators, and phased payment structure, so that it's not happening that you have paid the vendor in the beginning of the project and then the vendor is not doing the right things for the project. So that kind of risk can be mitigated if you keep the payment timelines as per the milestones in the project. And then also you have the set key performance indicators for each milestone. So you are aware that whatever vendor is giving is aligned to the quality standards that you have set up. Strategic risks. So again, reconfirm the project relevance at midpoints with market access or regulatory leads. So go to the seniors in the team and understand the project relevance, and if the project, whatever you're doing, is still aligned to the overall company's vision, mission, and if there is any change, and if there is anything, what should be done with the project from a project perspective, how this project can continue to kind of contribute towards overall company's journey. So those are the things that can be discussed when it comes to strategic risk. Building a risk-aware HEOR culture. So encourage transparency around emerging risks. Don't blame anyone about the risks. So risks are things that would come across the project. So we have to kind of work together and build the mitigation strategy, and there should be no blame game around the risks. Celebrate teams that anticipate and adapt to the risk effectively. So that is the culture that has to be fostered. So if teams are able to come up with potential risks, that should be celebrated, and should work as a team. People should be awarded if they can come up with some kind of risk that they feel is possible during the course of a project, and then the team can work on that and do the right mitigation strategy for it. Share learnings from past projects to institutionalize the good practices. So I mean, that is something which is quite prominent. So people, they talk about the challenges that they may have faced in the previous projects, the kind of risks that came along the journey in that project, and that is where you start learning, and that is called experience. So that's why people learn from experience, people learn from mistakes. So any risk that came in the previous project, it was not pre-identified, would have led to derailing of the project or delays in the project. So now you know about that. So that should be discussed, and that should be kind of built in your risk strategy, and you should kind of always preempt that this could be a possible risk in the current project as well. So that's where you work as a team. You are a risk-aware HEOR team, and you work together as a team to identify and mitigate those risks. So I think this was last slide of my section. Probably I'll hand it over to Richa to talk about the next section, and then I'll join you guys back during the question and answer session. Thank you.
Thanks, Mahendra. Hi, everyone. So I'll be covering three sections: team structure and capability building, people leadership and mentoring, communication and stakeholder engagement. And then for section 6, I'll hand it over to Rajpal and we'll resume again for section 7 from my side. Let's start with section 3, team structure and capability building. Okay, so what do we want to know in this section? How do we structure HUR team? It's a very tricky situation to meet the demand and supply. It's always a skewed relationship. What kind of team structures, or I would say, how do we meet those kind of skewed relationships? Then defining clear role models. What are modelers, what are writers, strategists? Is there a cross functional role available? If yes, then how can we achieve the same? Very important, skill gap identification and succession planning. How do you move ahead in your career? You only move ahead when somebody takes your place. What is required for that? A succession planning. Skill identification, skill gap identification, more importantly, as I started my talk, what got you here won't get you there. How to fill that gap? And upskilling team members. Whose responsibility is this? Is it your responsibility, organization responsibility, or is it a dual responsibility? Let's learn about the same. Okay, now structuring HUR team for agility. So as we know, as working professional, what I see is, we all know there are 4 quarters in 1 year. Each quarter is of 3 months. Quarter 1, Quarter 2, business is a bit slow. Quarter 3, Quarter 4, the business picks up, peaking towards the end of this year because of multiple reasons. Pharma companies need to exhaust their budget, change in planning for the next year, a lot of things. So what happens during that time? How do we upscale our team? Shall we have, can we forecast how many projects we'll have at the end of this year? Shall we have people already with us? Shall we make them sit on the bench, which makes affordability a big challenge? Basis that, there are various models which various companies follow depending upon their size, affordability, and structure. First is a centralized model, which means the entire HUR team will come under a center of excellence, which has a same reporting and can be aligned to different regional units or different departments as the need arises. Second model is the embedded model, which means these teams are already embedded within the cross-functional products or the therapeutic areas team, which enhances the day-to-day collaboration, clinical alignment, and responsiveness. This kind of strategy works when we have large teams, diverse pipeline, and something to look forward to every day. A hybrid model, it's a mix of a centralized model and an embedded model. There are other terminologies which are used in this aspects, known as the FTE, full-time employee, or the ring fence resource. What is the meaning of that? Which means there are certain team members in a particular team which are free to be aligned as and when required for the projects. Somehow there are certain projects which are on long-term basis, let's say 1 year or 2 year. For that, generally various teams or the clients, what they do with us is they ask for certain resources to be aligned only with them. So there are various kinds of team structuring in HUR which can be taken up as per the requirements. Now, defining clear roles and responsibilities. It is very important to define clear responsibilities depending on the job description and the skill set. For example, let's say you're working on a project where systematic reviews are required. Very important to have people who have experience in systematic literature review. If you have a modeling project, pharmacoeconomic modeling, cost effectiveness, budget impact, you need people who can develop those kinds of models, who have a deep understanding and implication and can implement those kinds of knowledge for development of the models. Then you have medical writers, value communication specialists. These people are experts in writing various medical communication documents, global value dossiers, AMCP dossiers, manuscripts, abstracts, posters, and HTA submission documents. Strategists or leads, you have to have certain leads, who can manage between these kinds of roles to make project a success. Then, as we said, literature reviewers or epidemiologists, they have their own roles and responsibilities in a particular projects. Role clarity tools, you can use this by RASI metrics, competency frameworks, or cross-functional role chatters. Now, the burning question that I get most of the time, can people work across these functional areas? Answer is yes. You have to have acquire those skills either through your education or job or a combination of both, but you can grow into these kinds of roles. So when you grow in your career, there is something called as a horizontal movement and something called as a vertical movement. So vertical means from one designation to the next, and horizontal, working across different areas, maybe at the same position. So now it is up to your aspiration. You want to have a vertical shift in your career or a horizontal shift, and there is progress in both. This is as per my experience, I can say. Now, skill gap identification and succession planning. Skill gap assessment. So there are various matrices which can help in determining whether there is a gap in the current role that you are or in the next role. These matrices are used to evaluate current and required competencies. Various platforms and tools are available. Hogan 360 is one of the platform where and in that platform the assessment is done by your seniors, juniors, and peers. So it gives an entire 360 spectra of your skill, what you're lacking, what can you do good, etc. Now map the gaps by therapy area, region, or the skill domain. Succession planning. So if, let's say, you have to cross train your team, you have to create your successors. You, when you take the other's shoes, you have to have somebody who has to fill in your shoes. Identify high potential team members who can be coached, who are ready for those next level. Develop a growth path for them. Growth path should be developed for all your employees when you start at the beginning of the year, giving them their skills, giving them their goals and competencies. Develop a growth path for them. Build a bench of internal talent to reduce dependence on external hiring. Always create, whenever there's a position opening, you should have a team member ready. It's always empowering and motivating to have your internal team members reach at that level. Okay. Leadership role. Collaborate with HR and learning and development for career pathing and leadership programs. Nowadays, many professional courses are available with colleges or these L&D teams who can help the team members to come up to that level. Promote internal mobility and role rotations to gain and to retain and grow talent. So retention is also a very big question mark. So if we upscale people, we can retain more and more talent with us. Now, upskilling team members in digital tools, AI, and advanced analytics. Some of the tools which we can use for upscaling our team members, modeling and data tools are Python, SQL, various modeling platforms, Triage, Excel-based modeling, R Shiny, data visualization tools, Tableau, ggplot2, Power BI, and make AI your friend. Okay. Upscale yourself, enhance, learn what are large language models, what is generative AI, what is agentic AI, how does it help in HEOR, what is the future with these tools, right? There are various systematic review tools also available nowadays. Go and learn them. Many companies are asking for them. In your job, you might have a chance on working on these tools. All tools are good. There's no right or wrong. It's just that we have to move along with the technology. Now, upskilling team members. Okay. There can be team-based learning or hackathons. Sponsored certifications or programs are available. Always good to learn from your peers. Peer-led lunch and learning sessions and participation in conferences, webinars, and working group. And as an individual, I would say take the ownership on yourself that you have to learn this. Invest in yourself. That is one of the main thing that I have learned. I can give one example. After my master's in pharmacy and pharmacology, I start working. I got a job through campus placement, and after few years, I realized when I started managing the profit and loss for my account in my job, I thought there are terminologies like EBITDA, PAT, profit after tax. Who will make me learn all this? So I did MBA. And then I realized, no, I have to upscale myself. I need to do a PhD. I did a PhD in clinical research. These two degrees I did along with my job. So my MBA and PhD are along with my regular job. Along with this, I keep on attending conferences, webinars, upscaling myself in AI, robotics, what is happening today, so that we can strike on any of the conversation and we can upscale our team as well. So your company might be upscaling and investing you, but as an individual, take it up on yourself as well to upscale. Now let's come to people leadership and mentoring. People leadership, coaching, very important. Coaching and mentoring, these are very important skills. Providing effective feedback, navigating diverse team, making a technical and a strategic mindset, leading with empathy, fostering psychological safety. Okay. Coaching for performance. In my previous job, I had a chance to be a part of mentorship, several mentorship sessions, where I was in the role of a mentor and a mentee. And what I did was I always chose a mentor and a mentee which is beyond my specialization of work, so that I get an unbiased view of how am I doing, how I can move ahead in my career, is there anything that I am lacking. And also it opens your mind to various other horizons as well, right? So, and some of the practical coaching approaches I would say are tailored check-ins, discuss with your employees, see what they need. Strength based coaching, identify and nurture what individuals can do best. Many of us watch cricket. I'm a big fan. Many of us watch, right? So in cricket we have a batsman, a bowler, and there are certain team members who are all rounders as well. Not everyone can be an all rounder. Some are very good batsmen, some are very good bowlers. So it's very important to identify the interest and the talent of your team members here also, and nurture it, just to help them make it better and better each day. Situational coaching, real time project situations where you can nurture the strategic thinking and give autonomy to your people, make them feel empowered, make them have the responsibility to take the decisions on behalf of themselves, on behalf of team. Stretch assignments. For example, there's an HTA submission. Involve them in various processes of it. Second thing, there are a lot of operational activities happening in many of the organization. Make your employees part of it. Have them learn. Let them have their out of the box thinking come out. Coaching is not correcting; it's enabling. Shift from tell to ask and foster the ownership. Very important skill, I would say, for a leader is ownership. Ownership can be at any level. You do not have to hold a fancy designation to have ownership. Take the ownership, whether you are an analyst, you are a consultant, you're a manager, senior manager, VP. Ownership leads to performance. Navigating diverse team, technical versus strategic mindset. Inculcate these. Encourage cross role pairing. Pair a modeler with a writer or a strategist to co-create outputs. Translate to why. Translate the why. Always empower your team members to ask questions. Ask why. Have an encouraging work culture in your team where people are empowered to ask the why. Value complementarity. Avoid favoring one mindset over other. Both are essentially important. Whether BD is important or delivery is important for a project, both are important. Okay. Build T-shaped capabilities. Encourage team members to develop deep expertise, broad awareness of adjacent domains. You can be a specialist, but it's always good to have a generalist skill as well. Diverse thinking is an asset. Create space where both analytic rigor and real world impact are respected. Providing feedback and development planning. Okay, when do you give a feedback? Feedback can be given over a cup of coffee, over lunch, just going for a quick walk, an informal meeting. You don't have to wait for the performance review cycle to give the feedback. It can be given anytime, anywhere. Feedback has to be constructive. Generally, we follow a sandwich mechanism for feedback, because it's not that the person feedback is both positive and improvement, right? So a general technique that I followed is, when we start the feedback, start telling the person what the person achieved this year. Then the next step is what the person could have done better. Last step, how we can together achieve so that the person can be in that position where you want the person to be. Instead of giving only the negative feedback or criticizing, many times spiral downs employees' performance. Employees lose the rigor, they lose the attachment or the ownership with the company, with the manager. Follow the SPI model: situation, behavior, impact. During the stakeholder call, when you present the model, right? I mean, be the role model. Give the example, what could have been done better, how it would have been done better. Many a times, we leave the conversation at that level. You could have done this better. Tell how. Give an example. Okay. Balance strengths and gaps. Reinforce what is working, what is not working, how this can be improved. Link the feedback with career goals. Very important. The employee will feel more connected. Whenever you are giving a feedback, link it with the career goal. Like, if you do this, you might be able to achieve this. Show the bigger picture. Make the developmental plan and have regular check-ins. It's not just you make the developmental plan and you just leave it to the employee. It's both the responsibility of the employee and the employer. Make feedback a habit, not an event. It's not something one day, twice a year or once a year you're calling the boardroom and this is your feedback. No, it's an ongoing thing. Normalize it in both directions. Encourage from feedback from team to leader too. I ask for feedback from my team members, and it's not since today. It's, I think, forever now. Whenever I do something, or in the interest of the company, or interest of the project, interest of people, I go down to all my employees and I ask, what is their opinion? How do they think? What the change? How it would impact them? It makes them feel empowered. It makes them feel more kind of having the responsibility and ownership towards the manager and the company. It makes them feel heard. Leading with empathy and fostering psychological safety. Always put yourself in the shoes of other person. Okay. Share your own learning curves. I started at analyst level, so I know what to expect, right? Invite opinions early. Actively ask your team members for inputs in the meeting, and junior team members as well. Create a culture in the team where people are not scared or feel shy to share their inputs. Respond, do not react. Show calm curiosity in the face of setbacks or dissent. There's another day to fight. We'll live for another day, right? Recognize contributions publicly. Promotions doesn't always mean recognizing your contributions, right? A pat on the back, a clap, an email, right, praising the employee, or voicing out in team meetings. They work very well. They work very well, actually. Empathy doesn't mean avoiding high standards. It means supporting people to meet them without fear. All of us in this call have seen COVID phase, right? It was a phase. It was a bad phase. We don't want to talk about it, but what it brought for all of us, it made us closer. It made us into a single unit. We used to work in the office. Suddenly everyone was working from their home. Everyone went to their own hometowns, to their own states to work. That time people used to call. They used to say, Richa, in many parts of India, we still have electricity issues. People used to call me and say, Richa, there's a transformer problem. I cannot work. It is fine. I give trust. I get back the trust. Okay. There were people who were attending to their sick parents, in-laws, spouses in the hospital. We had to go along with them. We had to lead with empathy calmness, and we never lost even a single employee due to any other offer or anything. That's how the leadership work. You have to adapt to your people situation. You have to give them trust first to get it back from them. Leading with empathy, understanding, and putting yourself in their shoes. Build a mentorship culture. Very important. Culture of mutual mentoring. It's not like I'm the boss, I'm the mentor. No, it doesn't happen. I might be a boss, I can be a very bad mentor. They're two different things. Having a manager, project manager, a boss, and a mentor. Okay, not everyone can be good at everything. So learn from peers, cross functions, external networks. There are peer mentoring circles. Okay, modelers, mentoring writers, vice versa. Lunch and learn, career stories from senior team members, external mentorship pairing. LinkedIn is a very, very important platform, I would say. If you want to have mentoring session with someone, reach out to people. I agree, not everyone responds, but people do respond. Have a quick chat with them. If you are in the same city, maybe you can meet for a cup of coffee, learn from their experience, learn from their career journey. Right. This is what I have recently started doing. And believe me, it has opened my mindset to various different horizons. I have learned so many things and I'm still learning. Right. Okay. Then we come to communication and stakeholder engagement. Right. Communication is verbal and non-verbal both. What we speak, what we write, what our body language says. Right. Um, in the work in our HUR world can be to the internal or external stakeholders. Internal stakeholders in a bigger company, different departments, external stakeholders to your clients. Who is a stakeholder? A stakeholder is everyone who is the part of the project internally or externally. Interfacing with peers, HTA bodies, clients, and policy leaders, translating evidence into actionable strategy for executives. This forms the part of your communication and engagement stakeholder. Managing conflicts and navigating competing cross-functional priorities. Many times we get stuck in this as well. Now, depending on your various stakeholders, your presentation needs to be different. Let's say you are in your office lift, okay, and suddenly your CEO of the company enters. Okay, you're very happy. Don't feel shy. Firstly, introduce yourself to the CEO. There might be thousands of employees in your company, but it's okay. It's fine. Shake hands, say hello, and say your name and say which department you're working on. Okay. And the CEO can suddenly ask you, which project are you working on? Can be a game changer for you. With the CEO in the same lift, introducing yourself, talking about your project. So that's a golden opportunity. Keep your pitch ready. And in your boardrooms, a CEO will give you only 5 minutes to present. So we cannot have a 40 slider to present to the CEO. Make it crisp. Learn to articulate the art of communication. When you are communicating it to your team members for training, it has to be detailed. For managers, you have to see what to put in. For your CEO, it's basically the numbers that matter. So learn that art on how to present to different kind of stakeholders in different manners. Your medical affairs team, they can be only interested in clinical validity, evidence quality, and patient relevance. Market access, they are focused on payer value, cost effectiveness, budget impact. Regulatory, they may review models or RWA submissions. Commercial looks for differentiation, messaging, or real world performance. Sorry. I was talking to a commercial leader in one of the big top 5 pharma companies, and he gave me a problem statement. He said, Richa, in our company, there are about 100 publications every year. Okay. And the thing is, we as commercial leaders, we do not have time to go through all those 100 publications. Devise a solution for me so that I can be abreast with all those publications within 10 to 15 minutes. They can be updated automatically, and also how my product is faring as compared to the competitor product. Can you devise a solution? I sent him one slide deck with the solution. It was a blueprint. I used, of course, agentic AI, generative AI, and a lot of things. But for a blueprint on how the product will look like, what I can do for him. But it was just one single slide. And my client appreciated it because he told me at the first hand, like, Richa, I don't have time. If I would have sent him 10 slider or a 15 slider, I would have lost the game there. Right? So see what audience you are communicating with. Audience specific storytelling, visual simplification, collaborative framing, involve stakeholders early and take their feedback and clarify assumptions. Another important tip that I would like to give from my side: whenever you write an email or make a slide deck, if you are not able to understand, believe me, no one else would. That is true. So avoid using technical diagrams, jargon words. Make it simple, relatable, and easy. Interfacing with peers, HTA bodies, and policy leaders. For this, now it comes to the technical aspects of credibility. Ensure the robustness of the methods, transparency of assumptions, clarity of limitations. What you did, what you didn't do, and why. Should be value focused. Why should the HTA body look into it? What is there in that for them? Stakeholder co-development, where possible, involve stakeholders, HTAs, or any advisor at the early stage. Training for external engagement. Prepare your team members in advance. For example, if I take my team members for any client meeting, we have a team huddle before. Whether it's a virtual meeting or a face-to-face meeting, we have a huddle, especially with the people who are going with me in that meeting. What will we say? How will we say? We manage that. We prepare for any of the questions that can come onto us. Okay. Confidence without defensiveness builds trust. Train your team to be both assertive and open. Translating evidence into actionable strategy for executive. Senior executives care about what HEOR means for pipelines, launch readiness, pricing, or risk mitigation, not just the science. So whenever I meet my clients, I ask their problem statement. What is their problem statement? How can I help them? Executive briefing formats, as I said, short, insight-driven decks. This, how, why, and what. Scenario, and then we come to scenario analysis. Put different scenarios, different assumptions. Use business language. ICER of 65K per quali. Payers may see this as good value compared to alternatives. Okay. See, as I said, suppose you are stuck in a lift with the CEO, right? If you and your CEO is a big shot guy or a girl, or if you explain to them ICER, by that time the CEO's floor will come. You cannot use. You have to make it simplify. You have to show them the value in what you're doing. Evidence to impact chain. Trace how to model or RWE study supports commercial outcomes. Very important thing. They want to see how commercially it will impact the business decision. Now, managing conflict and navigating competing cross-functional. HUR leaders, they might have different priorities. Medical may want something else. Access may push for speed. Commercial may want simplified narratives, as I gave you the example. Now, how do you have these conflict management strategies? Established, share goals, bring them on the same table. Have which is of interest or value to someone or everyone. Build trust. Consistent delivery, open communication, and fairness. Use neutral data. Don't be biased in your decisions. And facilitate trade-off discussion. Transparently show what is gained or lost with each option. See, we do, as a company, we do a lot of cost effectiveness, budget impact models, meta-analysis, systematic reviews. Many times we get neutral results. Many times we get results which are not of value to anyone, but we show it transparently. That is the key. Don't avoid conflict. Manage it constructively to protect scientific integrity and strategic alignment. Conflicts will happen. It's not one of its kind. It happens day in and day out, right? Another example that I can give you, for example, I sent one global value dossiers for review, and suddenly from the client side, I came to know that there were 10 people from different teams who were reviewing. I had to be assertive there. So I sat down with the client and I made them understand, see, 10 people from different departments will never have a consensus. Right? It might get lost in the ego polishing, or all of us are different human beings in difference of opinion. So for, viewing or reviewing the document, you have to have at least minimum of 2 to 3 people. That's enough. That is how you manage the conflicts. Otherwise, it becomes a never ending task. The project will never finish, it will never reach any conclusion, right? Conflicts are there, they are bound to happen. So, what we have to learn is how to manage them. Najmal, all yours.
Thanks, Dr. Richa. So,
Sorry.
yeah, we can go to next slide, please.
Okay.
So, colleagues, in this segment, I want to address a critical strategic lever for health economics and outcome research, that is innovation and change leadership in the digital era. We are witnessing a fundamental paradigm shift in HEOR, driven by the infusion of AI-enabled analytics, real-time evidence generation ecosystems, and workflow automation technologies that are not merely accelerating processes, but reconfiguring the architecture of how we conceptualize, produce, and disseminate evidence. So we will be focusing on driving digital transformations in HEOR, encouraging innovations and thought leadership within the team, piloting new methods, creating a culture of continuous learning and experimentation. Richard, next slide, please. Yeah. So driving digital transformation in HEOR. From an operational leadership perspective, digital change is not just about the tools. It's about the strategic alignment of technology with organizational capability building frameworks and governance protocols. An AI model or a real-time evidence platform only delivers value if it's embedded into a governance environment and ensures data integrity, reproducibility of the insights, and methodological rigor as well. Artificial intelligence and machine learning can be used for conducting systematic reviews, uh, for doing predictive modeling and real-world evidence synthesis as well. Automation can help in auto generation of models, dashboards, value dossiers, and structured reports. Digital HEOR platforms can help in creating centralized repositories for evidence generation, collaborative model building, and version control. Agentic systems and next-gen systems that can act on behalf of users, integrating models, inputs, and data source for decision support. Next slide, Richa. Encouraging innovation and thought leadership within the team. This is the most important thing I can say. So one of the most overlooked aspect of innovation leadership is permission architecture. Explicitly signaling that ideation, experimentation, and deviation from conventional approaches are part of professional remit for every team member, not just those labeled as innovation leads. As this leadership tip says that innovation starts with the permission. Make it clear that trying new things is part of everyone's job, not just linked to the innovation team only. Today, HEOR landscape is being reshaped by regulatory receptivity to non-traditional evidence sources, patient-driven demand for individualized outcomes, and payer insistence on value frameworks that integrate both clinical and economic outcomes. So as HEOR leaders, we should be working and focusing on creating innovation forums, recognition programs, idea incubators, and also enhancing cross-pollination. Next slide. So piloting new methods. So innovation without execution is rhetoric, and that's why piloting becomes indispensable. Whether we are introducing patient-centric endpoints, integrating dynamic scenario-based economic modeling, or applying real-world digital data capture pipeline, the key is to frame pilots as structured learning experiments. Leadership insight here says that a pilot is not a miniature of the final product. It's an instrument for hypothesis testing. It should be scoped tightly, have clear success metrics, and be explicitly positioned as a vehicle for knowledge generation, irrespective of whether the outcome validates or challenges the original hypothesis. Now, the last slide of this section. Creating a culture of continuous learning and experimentation. So innovation maturity in HEOR is inseparable from a culture of continuous learning cycles, where reflective practice and iterative improvement are embedded into the project lifecycle, rather than bolted as an afterthoughts. So we should become culture enablers. We should allocate time and funding for external courses, certifications, or conference participations. We should create designated projects or spaces where it's safe to test and iterate without reputational risk. We should encourage our junior staff to share latest tech or digital trends with senior members. We should also include innovation KPIs like include metrics like number of new methods piloted or number of learnings disseminated in the performance reviews as well. So your innovation playbook as an HEOR leader should be focusing on AI integration, thought leadership, team empowerment, method experimentation, and creating learning culture in your teams. With this, I hand over back to Dr. Richa for the next section.
Thanks, Rajpal. Now, how do we measure impact and success? Everything that we have learned is theoretical. We apply, but everything and anything without measuring and knowing the impact, how do we know that we are there? We have implemented any change. So now, key performance indicators for HEOR effectiveness. How do you link HEOR outputs to commercial and access outcomes? Building dashboards and reporting tools for leadership visibility, storytelling with matrices, showcasing the value of HEOR team. Now, KPIs for HEOR effectiveness, whether it is scientific, operational, and strategic. Scientifically, it's measured in numbers. How many peer-reviewed publications are there? How many quality of assessment quality generations or evidence generation projects did we do? Reuse of HEOR evidence in regulatory HTA submissions. Then we have operational KPIs, which on time, on budget delivery. Was the project profitable? What is the EBITDA that is left? What is the cycle time? Was there any scope creep? What are the vendor performance scores? Internal review quality pass rate, percentage of models or dossiers approved without rework. More than this, we have our own QC checklists, right? For example, if we are doing a systematic literature review and we have abstract screening, full text screening, data extraction, what is the percentage of errors that we are doing? What is the acceptability limit? Are we within the limit, or do we have to have certain changes in the team to bring it to that level? Strategic KPIs, utilization of HEOR outputs in payer meetings, contribution of successful HTA decisions, a role of HEOR in lifecycle decision making, impact on formulary placement or market access speed. So these are some of the KPIs through which we measure the performance, which are very important. Now, linking the HEOR outputs to commercial success. How do we demonstrate influence on payer engagement? Did we include HEOR messaging in our value propositions, global value dossiers? Did we contribute to pricing strategy optimization? Yes or no? Acceleration of access timelines due to stronger evidence packages. What it requires? Collaborating with market access, pricing, and commercial leads to co-define shared KPIs. Now, building dashboards to reporting tools for leadership visibility. There are various tools that we all use, and they are very important to assess the different phases of the project lifecycle. Project pipeline, status of therapy areas, utilization of people, whether we need hiring or not, delivery, budget, quality. These are the matrices which also come handy in our appraisals. Strategic environment alignment, which HEOR output support key decisions or the milestones, risk area and mitigations, and return on investment estimates or impact summaries per asset utilization. So there are various dashboards and tools which are used for measuring these KPIs, and we all use them as per our requirement at different stages of the project. Storytelling with matrices, showcasing the value to your HEOR team. Very important thing that I used to miss in the projects. For example, let's say it's an HTA submission and my part was only in the systematic review. I did my part, but I never came to know what happened to the project. Whether the drug was reimbursed, not reimbursed, how did the GVD look like? It's very, very important to show your team members the end product, the end value. What value did they achieve by doing that kind of thing? Frame HEOR achievements as value stories, not as a data point. Highlight the before and after scenarios enabled by the HEOR insights. Create case studies or spotlight stories. Narrate them in your town halls, team meetings. The teams will feel valued. Tailor presentations by audience. Okay, scientific rigor for medical affairs, ROI for executives. You have to tailor your presentations as per the different roles, as per the different demands. Okay, develop a quarterly or annual HEOR impact summary to share internal leadership and global teams. Okay, so it should be a continuum. Never leave it hanging. Like this was only your part, you did it. Now the rest of the team is handling or taking care of it. No, it doesn't have any value for the team member. They will never evolve. They will never be connected. So it's always important to show them the end result. I would like to extend acknowledgements to our team members, Sakshi, Gautam, and Sushant, who helped us in putting together the deck and the presentation for today. With this, we would like to end our presentation here, and we are open for questions, if any. Fatima, would you like to facilitate, or shall we start taking the questions?
Yes, ma'am, you can go ahead with the questions. I don't think there are any questions here.
Yeah, there are no questions.
Okay. Okay. How to look
Somebody is
for HEOR
asking one
internships?
question.
Mahendra, want to take this?
So, I mean, depending on the company you're looking at for internships, so some of the companies, they do campus interviews even for internships, or the other way is to always try to reach out to people in these companies and check whether they are open for internship programs. And I mean, both ways it works. I mean, some of the people in past, they've reached out to me and we have given them internship opportunities. In fact, currently we are having 4 interns who joined us recently because they reached out to us, and then we also had something to offer, so we could do that. So yeah, that's how it happens. And then some companies, they have their structured channel through HR. HR will reach out to the academic institutes and they will want to come and do some interviews for hiring few interns, and this can be 2 to 3 months kind of a internship program that they do. So yeah, depending on companies and depending on institutes as well, this program happens.
Yeah, we have next question. Is there any opportunity for Nepalese citizens at HEOR?
Yes, I mean, yeah, anyone can do HEOR, anyone can learn. It's fine.
Next is minimum qualification for HEOR.
So yeah, I mean, we prefer MPharms, PharmDs, MPharms, even people from medical. So I mean, if it is pharmacy, so either PharmD or MPharm is what we prefer. In past, we have also taken BPharms for internship, but preference is to have at least people with MPharm. Either they are currently doing their MPharm or about to complete. So that's what we prefer.
Master's degree basically in life sciences, pharmacy, or if it's a niche specific, let's say statistics, epidemiology, but generally, master's degree is preferred. How do you know if company is open for interns? Please check on LinkedIn or various company portals. And every company has a different timeline, different demands. So maybe that would help. Abhay is asking, do you do any additional documents required? Sorry, Abhay, additional documents as in, of course, qualification is required. Maybe a master's degree is a must, as we said. For
Nepalese citizens, so they have to check with HR for this
yeah,
of
yeah.
specific companies.
Another interesting question for you. Does HEOR work differently for brand and generic drugs? Since you said focuses on cost handling and
So
reimbursement,
HEOR,
etc.
yes, HEOR as a concept is for innovative drugs. So the entire idea is to justify the premium value that a new innovator molecule brings in terms of clinical benefit, and then the pricing is high because of the research and development cost. So that cost has to be justified, and that's where the overall principle of pharmacoeconomics is used. So this is for innovative products. For generic brands, I mean, the comparison can be done, but then it has to be two generic molecules. You cannot compare an innovator brand molecule with a generic because there's a very huge cost difference, and the innovator may not come up cost effective in that case.
There is next question. Is there any specific technical skill that would you suggest for fresher or interns to enter in this field?
So I think apart from the educational background, the what we'll say is the learning agility. People who are willing to learn new things, and I mean, as Richard said, so masters is something that we look forward to. But then we also come across people who have already done something in HEOR, so they may be doing systematic reviews, which may or may not be part of their course curriculum, but they do it out of interest. They learn, they have done some certification courses. So we'll definitely prefer people who have some understanding, and we don't have to reinvent the wheel for them. And we can always add on to what they have learned on their own or done some courses, and then easy for us to train them further.
So some of the people are asking about the companies that offer internships. Sorry, we cannot take names in public forum about these organizations. And next question is, hi, myself, I am Harshita. I am currently working as clinical data abstractor with over 1.5 years of experience. Is it possible to transform my career in HEOR with the help of my present experience? If yes, could you please guide me?
Yeah, so I think data abstraction or data curation is a good skill, and that will definitely help you when you kind of move on to any of the HEOR teams, because essentially, as part of the process, when you do SLRs, you'll be required to extract data from published literature, and as a data curator or data abstractor, you would have learned that skill, so that helps. But there are a lot of things beyond that that needs to be learned as part of the process, but it certainly helps.
Okay, there are no more questions.
Fatima, I think we can close.
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. That concludes today's session on leading HEOR teams from project oversight to people development. A heartfelt thank you to our speaker, Dr. Richard, Dr. Mahendra, for sharing such valuable insights and practical strategies, and for all your active participation. Thank you, Dr. Rajpal Singh, for your contribution too. As we have seen, effective HEOR leadership is not only about delivering high quality projects, but also about empowering people, building trust, and creating a culture where teams can thrive. We hope you leave today with fresh ideas to apply in your own leadership journey. Thank you once again for joining us, and we look forward to welcoming you to our future events. Wishing you all a productive and inspiring day ahead. Thank you so much,
Thank
ma'am.
you. Thank you, everyone. Bye
Thanks,
bye. Take care,
everyone.
everyone. Bye
Bye.
bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
All the participants, please do fill in the feedback form before leaving, as it will be considered for your certification.